right, AP students, this is section 3 from chapter 4, and for the first time we're really going to be spending an extended period of time talking about religion. In particular, we're going to be looking at ancient India religion during the Vedic age to see how it is a precursor to both Hinduism and then subsequently Buddhism. This is going to help out with several things, including your reading of the AP Literature book Sky Burial. Essential question has been unchanged. It will be unchanged until the end of this unit. So, just as a little disclaimer, there's going to be a video clip in this lecture from the movie Fight Club. It contains some explicit language, in particular the use of the F word. So if you are sensitive to the F word or prefer not to listen to profane language, then I would recommend that you not watch the video clip. Moving on. Okay, what do we know about Aryan religion? First of all, it is polytheistic. We have a god of war, which was Indra. We have a god of order and a god of creation. Remember, that was Brahma. Brahma, the god of creation, goes back to the Vedas. The Vedas were our first 4 religious texts, going back to why we call this the Vedic age. So, we also have the god Varuna, who's concerned about cosmic order and concerns with ethics. So, polytheistic religion, very important to keep that in mind. That's going to be a precursor to the several gods that we see under Hinduism. So, what do we know about Aryan religion in addition to it being polytheistic? Well, we know that it begins to develop certain tenets that are not dissimilar from Hinduism, but at least towards the beginning, it's concerned less with ethical behavior and more with ritual and making sacrifices. So how you performed religious functions was more important than how you lived your life. This changes, however, as we're going to see. Around 800 BCE, right in the heart of the Vedic age, we start to see that shift of spirituality in ancient India. We see individuals, these hermits, go off into the forest and think long and deeply about religion and their relationship with the gods and the universe. And we start to see these Dravidian notions of what's called transmigration, which means a soul moving from one body to another body. And this idea of reincarnation, of being reborn, being adapted into the religion. So again, their religious tradition adopts 2 important concepts. The idea that a soul can go from body to body to body, and more importantly, that a person can die and be reborn again and again and again. These are fundamental tenets to ancient Indian religion, especially under the Aryans, but it's also essential for understanding Hinduism and Buddhism because they continued that tradition of both transmigration and reincarnation. So, we start to see the blending of these 2 cultures, the Aryans with their polytheistic religion and these Dravidian values of transmigration and reincarnation. And we start to see things that sound a little bit familiar to us. First, you have to understand the goal of this ancient religion, similar to Hinduism and Buddhism today, where in Christianity, the ultimate goal is salvation through either good works or through by the acceptance of Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Again, the idea is eternal salvation instead of eternal damnation. That's the highest goal of Christianity. That's also the highest goal of Judaism and Islam, which shouldn't surprise us because they're all part of that Abrahamic triad, those 3 religions that come from Abraham. Indian religion's a little different than that, though. The goal is actually to escape life, to escape reincarnation, and join with Brahman, the universal soul, to become part of this universal soul. This concept which later goes on in Buddhism to be called nirvana. But the idea is to disengage oneself from the cycle of rebirth. There are some terms that you guys are going to hopefully be aware of. Again, one is samsara, the idea that each and every one of us has been born multiple times, and karma. And we use karma, I think, in America quite a bit, and we use it incorrectly. Karma isn't necessarily, I do something bad today, something bad will happen to me tomorrow. That's not what karma is. Karma is a lot more long-term than that. It's, if I do bad things in this life, my next life, I am going to be punished for those actions. It's not until my next life that I get to be punished. But in our kind of Judeo-Christian society, the idea of having to wait for punishment until the next life seems to clash with our values. And so we say, karma just means, something bad. You did something bad today, something bad will happen to you tomorrow. Karma in the true sense is a little bit more long-term than that. We have this idea of moksha, the idea of permanent liberation from your physical being. Being alive in this religious tradition is actually kind of seen as a bad thing. It's seen as we're going to see when we get to Buddhism, that life is suffering, life is difficult, versus I think in other religious tradition where life is celebrated and appreciated. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but it talks about where this idea of good and evil come from and the purpose of living a moral life. I would recommend you take a moment to read that, because I think it helps to really solidify what is being talked about here. So, let's move on to integrating American pop culture with this classic Indian religion. This is from the movie Fight Club, which came out in the late 90s, was one of my favorite movies. It might still be my favorite movie. And here you have a scene that I think epitomizes that idea of life is suffering and how one needs to elevate oneself to a higher plane of existence. Enjoy.
Answer your hand, please.
What is this?
This is a chemical burn. It'll hurt more than you've ever been burned, and you will have a scar.
What are you doing? Guided meditation worked for cancer. It could work for this.
Stay with the pain. Don't shut this out.
No, God!
Look at your hand. The first soap was made from the ashes of heroes, like the first monkey shot into space. Without pain, without sacrifice, we would have nothing.
I tried not to think of the word searing or flesh.
Stop! This is your pain. This is your burning hand. It's right here.
I'm going to my cave. I'm going to my cave. I'm going to find my power animal.
No! Don't deal with it the way those dead people do. Come on!
I get the point, okay?
No, what you're feeling is premature enlightenment. It's the greatest moment of your life, man, and you're off somewhere miserable.
I am not.
Shut up. Our fathers were our models for God. If our fathers bailed, what does that tell you about God? Listen to me. You have to consider the possibility that God does not like you. He never wanted you. In all probability, he hates you. This is not the worst thing that can happen.
It isn't.
We don't need him.
We don't agree. I got it.
Fuck damnation, man. Fuck redemption. We are God's unwanted children. So be it. Listen, you can run water over your hand and make it worse, or look at me. Or you can use vinegar to neutralize the burn.
Please let me have it, please.
First, you have to give up. First, you have to know, not fear, know that someday you're gonna die.
You don't know how this feels.
It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Congratulations. You're one step closer to hitting bottom.
So that famous line, it's not until we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. something to consider as we talk about classic Indian religion. Again, the idea of disengaging oneself from our earthly bonds, and trying to escape that cycle of rebirth, reincarnation, and transmigration. Moving right along, within 400 years, we have, we have religious texts. We have, pardon me, all right, the blending of these Aryan and Dravidian values continues, where we start to incorporate these Dravidian values into Aryan polytheism, where we start to replace the ritual with ethical tenets, the idea of living an ethical life. Avoid things like greed and envy and vice. Respect living things and stop eating meat, because you should respect all living things. Here's the downside of this belief system. I think in some ways many Westerners would find this to be very attractive. The idea of understanding that life is suffering, of trying to escape suffering, of being upright and moral and respecting all living things. I think most of us would agree that those are all fairly good things. Here's the downside, though. Those concepts of samsara and karma tell us that, well, the position you're born into, that's divine judgment. You have done something wrong, and so the life you were born into, you should suffer through it. This is your punishment or your reward for your behavior in past lives. This is your karma. So if you're born poor, well, you should remain poor, because this is teaching you valuable lessons. And if you're born rich, well, you did something right in the last life, and this is your reward for doing it. So continue to live that ethical standard. And so it reinforced that caste system that we see emerging in classical India. If you're born into the Brahmin class, well, you deserve to be there. And if you're born an untouchable, well, you deserve to be there as well. So there are some downsides to this religious tradition. So with that, with these conflicting values of the benefits and drawbacks of classical Indian religion, we end this chapter. Actually, this is the end of section 2, so replace that little 2 with a 3, and we will continue in our next chapter, which is actually chapter 6. We'll be looking at the Americas and Oceania during the classical period. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.